Soccer Podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right level to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Liverpool podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. It's Thursday, the 2nd of October. Where has this year gone? I mean, it's absolutely flown by. How's everyone doing? Still feeling rubbish. Understandable. We've lost to Crystal Palace in the Premier League and then followed that up with a pretty abysmal performance midweek in the Champions League away at Galatasaray. We did a post-match on that, so I suppose a couple of days brings some perspective. It's not the end of the world. We've lost one Premier League game and we've lost one Champions League game. It's not the end of the season. It's not the end of the world. But I do think that it's valid to have some concerns because it's not just that we lost. I think most Liverpool supporters would accept that we haven't really played well this season and that these kind of defeats were coming. You know, maybe not back to back, but certainly a defeat was on the cards. If we continued to play like this, then just the law of averages suggests that you're not always going to get that last-minute goal to salvage a point or get a win. Although we did think that against Palace. When we got that late goal by Chiesa, we thought, okay, here we go. You know, we've got 10 minutes or so. And, you know, you'd put money on Liverpool getting a winner. But it didn't work out that way. We lost the game. And Galatasaray, again, I just think that fundamentally, I think that we're just too slow in the way that we're playing, and that's got to change. But credit to Galatasaray. Let's give some credit to them because their last Champions League game was a 5-1 battering at the hands of Frankfurt. And we go there and admittedly we make it, I think, a bit easier for them than it should have been. But I thought Galatasaray were really good. And I think you've got to give a bit of respect to that team because you look at some of the players that they've got. It's a very, very good team. And that environment, I mean, what an atmosphere. That's what football's about. You know, that kind of atmosphere. And I mean, I was just watching it at home and my ears were hurting every time we were in possession of the ball because the noise that Galatasaray were making, it was actually a relief when we lost possession because they stopped whistling. But you just think, great stadium, great atmosphere. And yeah, I just thought it was a great spectacle. If you were watching as a neutral, you'd probably give Galatasaray a round of applause. But look, we go again. We've got Chelsea on Saturday. We'll have the preview for that tomorrow. So let's round up some other Liverpool news that's doing the rounds. Alisson Becker turns 33. So happy birthday to Alisson Becker. But he's injured again. And Arne Slot has said that he will definitely miss Saturday's trip to Chelsea. So we're not quite sure yet as to the extent of the injury, whether it was a calf strain. I mean, it looked like a bit of a hamstring, which, it could be anything. It depends on how severe that injury is, if it's a hamstring strain, if it's a tear. It could be anything from 4 weeks to 4 months. I would suspect that it's going to be, 4 to 6 weeks. It does bring into question, once again, the only thing that you can really lay at Alisson's door really is his fitness record. He's probably, for me, he is the best goalkeeper in the world. There's just no doubt about that. But it's the only thing that lets him down, is that he will suffer a significant injury at least once every season. And so he's going to be out. I mean, I suppose it's a blessing in a way that we're on the cusp of the second international break. So once we play Chelsea at the weekend, it's a 2-week international break. It means that Alisson Becker doesn't travel to the Brazil national team. He stays on Merseyside and, just concentrates on his rehabilitation. So again, depending on how serious that injury is, he could be back after the international break, but I would suspect that it'll be at least a couple of more weeks after that. So I suppose it does make the club's move to bring in Georgi Marmadashvili to the club, just all the more smarter. I mean, Liverpool, we've always waxed lyrical about the recruitment department and, how they're always a couple of steps ahead in terms of the players they bring in. And I think Marmadashvili definitely fits into that category. As I said, Alisson has turned 30. He's in the last year of his contract, but there is an option to extend for another season. I would expect Liverpool to activate that option, and I'd expect Alisson to remain at Liverpool for another year. But I'm not sure whether Liverpool as a club are going to hand what would then be a 34-year-old Alisson Becker a new contract which he would be happy with. I think there's every possibility that they'd offer him a contract, but I think it would be probably on reduced terms. And then it just depends on whether Alisson Becker wants to accept that or whether he thinks it's time to move on, maybe go back to Brazil. I think 34 is not really, it's not really a significant age for a goalkeeper. Goalkeepers can really go up to 40. And I just think that he's good enough, to carry on for a good few years, certainly to be Liverpool's number one for a good few years. So I would like to see Alisson get another contract. But I think Marmadashvili coming in, I think it just spotlights that position and the situation that Alisson Becker is in and his injury record. And I think that in a year's time, I think there'll be a decision to make for both the club and for Alisson Becker. But I've got no qualms about Marmadashvili coming in on Saturday. I mean, he played the League Cup game against Southampton. I know it's Southampton, but it just looked very, very assured. Very assured. He looks huge, and I think that's a good thing as well. So, yeah, I think having him as a backup goalkeeper, I think keeps us in good stead, much like we had last season. We've always had good backup goalkeepers. So, yeah, let's see how he performs on Saturday. Funnily enough, Alisson Becker shares a birthday with one Roberto Firmino, who also actually turns 34 today. So he's a year older than Becker. Yeah, so happy birthday, Bobby Firmino. What a fantastic player he was. Absolutely central to Jurgen Klopp's formation and that Jurgen Klopp era. You do kind of miss that, the kind of mayhem that forward line brought to every game. We're so much more measured now in the way that we approach games. Let's move on to some contract news. According to reports in France, Liverpool are now confident of agreeing a new contract extension with Ibrahima Canate. Real Madrid and his hometown club PSG are said to be very interested in signing the French international on a free transfer in the summer. And French outlet L'Equipe are reporting that Liverpool have now submitted a new offer to Konate and that the club is confident that an agreement will be reached. I mean, bearing in mind the kind of start that Konate has had this season, do we want him to now sign that contract? And maybe even Real Madrid and PSG are having second thoughts. I still think that he's worth a new contract, even if it's just purely on a business level. Because if you get Konate, who's I think he's 26 now, if you get him to sign a new contract and you do want to move him on, then you're going to get a fee. And I think that's why even Real Madrid, their business model now is very much around snapping up these free transfers, one to bring into the team if they're good enough. But I think there's a business element to that as well, is because if you snap them up on a free transfer and you don't see them as kind of starting 11 players, but they're good enough to be on the bench, they're good enough to be in the squad, and they're part of the kind of rotational squad, you can always move them on in 12 months, 18 months time and get a healthy fee, and you just make a profit on these kinds of players. So I do think that it's worth keeping Konate, but I do think that he's got to up his game because he's had a really, really poor start. And I don't know if anyone saw the tweet that was put out by Duolingo, the language learning app. They sent out a tweet on Twitter or X saying that Ibrahima Canate is now a member of the Spanish Diamond League. So he's obviously brushing up on his Spanish. I just hope that he brushes up on his defensive skills as well. And I bet Konate is over the moon about that tweet as well. Talking of centre-backs, Gleison Bremer, Brazilian defender playing for Juventus, 28 years old, has emerged as possible alternative to Mark Guéhi. Lots of rumours are around Mark Guéhi and whether Liverpool are willing or able to go into the January transfer window and to sign Guéhi. One, because obviously we want him. We showed that in the summer and we were this close to signing him. But also in light of the injury suffered to Giovanni Leoni in that League Cup game that I mentioned earlier against Southampton. And so Bremer is seen as a possible alternative to Mark Guéhi if that one doesn't go through. He joined Juventus in the summer of 2022 on a 5-year contract, and reports suggest that Liverpool are looking to him to add to the squad as an alternative to Guéhi. Or is it as a long-term replacement for Van Dijk? I mean, Van Dijk is 34, and Bremer is very, very good in the air. He's very dominant. He's a real leader in terms of organising that back line. So I think that it's entirely feasible that Liverpool move for Gleison Bremer in addition to going for Mark Guéhi as opposed to a replacement. And I love these Brazilian names that have got just football heritage, as Jose Mourinho would say, just written all over it. Apparently, he was named after German defender Andreas Bremer. He scored the winner in the 1990 World Cup final for Germany against Argentina, Diego Maradona's Argentina. He was a fullback. Was it a left back or right back? And he took the penalty. He would take the penalties, and he scored. I think he played for Inter Milan in Serie A when Serie A was the dominant league in world football. But yeah, that's another interesting one to watch out for. We mentioned Giovanni Leoni. He's had his surgery to repair that ruptured anterior cruciate ligament injury. Leoni took to Instagram to post, "Surgery done. Thanks everyone for the messages. I'll be back soon." Yeah, look, let's hope so. I honestly think he would have got game time this season. I mean, the way that Konate has been playing recently, I mean, I would have stuck him in the side. Absolutely no issues. He looked very, very assured on his debut against Southampton in the League Cup. So let's hope we see him back fit and firing soon. That's all for today. You've been listening to the Daily Liverpool podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. Join us again tomorrow as we start our build-up to the weekend's big game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.